Okay, extracting broken keys. There is not much to this, so I'm not gonna spend much time, if any, really showing the techniques or demonstrating how it's done because it's all largely the same. The goal is to grab onto the broken portion of the key and simply pull it out. I mean, there's not much beyond that. And there's some nuances and minor details that can help with that, and that's really what we're going to focus with today. But for the most part, it's not rocket science to extract broken keys. So I'll cover those nuances today, maybe show you a little tips or tricks I've picked up over the years and show you the various types and kind of illustrate what they're trying to do. But as far as demonstrating how to remove a broken key, I'm not going to waste your time because it's just so elementary, so basic. The first nuance, it's going to be the buzzword for this article, I guess, is the key pull position. And what the key pull position is very simply, it's the orientation of the plug in relation to the cylinder that allows the key to be removed. See, right now I'm what they call the key pull position. When we rotate it, we are out of the key pull position. Maybe we're retracting a latch, a bolt, something, whatever the design of the cylinder is, but we go beyond the key pull position and we're trapped. In this case, we're trapped by wafers, but here's, for example, a key and lever cylinder or key and knob cylinder. Once we rotate beyond the key pull position, we're trapped by pins in this case. So that's important to keep in mind when we're extracting a broken key, because if the broken portion is rotated beyond the key pull position, the best tools and techniques in the world aren't really going to help you, because those wafers or the pins are going to have it trapped and you can pull with all your strength, but it's not coming loose. So it's important to understand what the key pull position is and where it should be in relation to the rest of the cylinder itself, so that you know where it needs to be and you're not fighting an uphill battle. And I know that's pretty straightforward on mortise cylinders, for example. Plug's going to be at the bottom of the cylinder, and it's very asymmetrical in that you would know exactly where the key pull position is. And same thing even on key and lever cylinders, which are positioned like this, or key and knob, which are positioned like this. But you know, just by looking at it, you can tell, okay, my key pull position's at 3 and 9 or 12 and 6. Rarely anything beyond that, and I can't think of any exception, but just because I can't think of one doesn't mean it doesn't exist, but I can't recall ever seeing one. So for mortise, rim, interchangeable core, here's another one, obviously is at 12 and 6. Mortise, rim, key and lever, interchangeable core. The key pull position is going to be very apparent. The tricky cylinders are wafer types, your cabinets, desk drawer locks, whatever. In this example, you can see that there's the cylindrical portion. Well, that's what mounts through the door. So when you're on the outside of the face of the door, that's all you're going to see. Well, where is the key pull position? More than likely it's going to be at 12 and 6 or at 3 or 8 or 3 or 9, depending on how it's mounted. But you know, it's very symmetrical in this regard, in that, you know, it's kind of hard to tell what's top to bottom, left to right, vice versa. So just keep that in mind when you're working with especially wafer locks, that the appearance can be, I won't say misleading, but you kind of have to pay attention to make sure it's where it needs to be. And I know that sounds overly ambiguous, but just, you know, kind of, you'll get the feel of it and figure it out. For example, they'll click into place and you can kind of hear it. But that's one thing to keep in mind. The other thing is, and here's a broken key, or a portion of a broken key, is if they break in front of, or I guess behind, depending on how you're looking at it, either a pin or a wafer. And what I mean by that is, if you can imagine this is a wafer, if the key's broken like that, so we've got a flat surface here and a flat surface here. So again, even though we might be in the key pull position, when you're pulling, you've got flat against flat. There are no peaks and valleys like in a key cut that allow that wafer to move up and down, or that pin to move up and down, so the key can be removed. So you're going to be fighting with it, very similar to if the key was rotated beyond the key pull position. And then very simply, you're just going to have to handle that by using a probe or similar tool to lift that one wafer or that one pin out of the way while you're removing the key so that we can clear it. So that's the second thing you're going to have to keep in mind. But those are the two big things you're going to run into that might, I don't know, throw something in your way that might not be as straightforward as just simply pulling the key out. Happens from time to time, so just keep that in mind. So we'll go over now the various types of key extraction tools, and these are by no means the only ones. These are just the ones I'm familiar with or aware of. If you've got any that I'm not going to cover, feel free to comment or either in the video or the article itself. But first one, and this is my favorite to use, fine point tweezers. And the reason why we're using these as opposed to, here's a standard rekeying pinning tweezers. Yeah, these will get the job done, but see how blunt the tip is and flat the tip is? With these fine point tweezers, what I'm able to do is really get in there and see here I'm actually in a few grooves, and I'm really getting a good hold of it, and I'm really getting in there where standard or normal pair of tweezers isn't going to allow. So that allows me to really grab onto it. And then on top of that, and here's another pair, obviously this one's a little bit finer, so let's see if I can get in there. You can see I'm really getting it in there. And on top of that, if you carry a pair of Leathermans or similar needle nose pliers, when you hook onto the key, see we're hooked on right there, if you have enough leverage, if you have enough room, you can grasp onto the tweezers with the pliers and really get some leverage to really pull that out. If you've got a strong grip, and I'm sure you do if you're a locksmith, but if you've got a strong enough grip, those tweezers aren't going anywhere and you can pull it right out. Real easy, makes it effortless almost. And using a secondary tool to get additional leverage is a trend you're going to see throughout this video, because I've come to find that just because you can grab onto something doesn't necessarily mean it's going to come out. So I've kind of learned a few ways to get some additional leverage to really, really pull the key out, because sometimes they can be stubborn. Second tool, and this is my second favorite tool, I guess I'm running in order, is a spiral extractor. You can see along the length of this tool there are spiral grooves, and what happens is that those spiral grooves can catch onto various portions of the key and create friction enough that it'll actually pull the key. And in the article I mentioned that I like to get at least 3/8 of an inch. I realize that's not always the case, but the more you can get, the better. But we'll take what we can get. But in this case, I don't have a broken, I guess I can put this broken key in here. Portions I'm going for, somewhere along any of the milling or the grooves or anywhere I can get into. I don't have this one inserted all the way, but you can see I've got a good bit of play, which will allow me to get the spiral extractor started, and I can literally screw it in. And then going back to what I said just a moment ago with the Leatherman or needle nose pliers, you can really get some leverage in and really press on this tool to get it started. So I've got, obviously I'm gripping some vice grips here, or adjustable pliers, or I don't know the specific, I think vice grips a brand, but whatever. So we're pressing in and we're rotating and really taking advantage of that leverage. And then once we get in as much as we can, or ideally that 3/8 or beyond if possible, once you've got that in there, very simply, you just grab hold again and pull right out. Simple as that. The third type is a sawtooth extractor, and its name adequately describes its description. It's basically a small sawtooth blade, and very much like the spiral extractors, those teeth are going to grab onto the key. And there's a number of ways you can put it in: sideways, you can try to grasp through the top, you can even, if you're lucky enough and if there is enough clearance, you can hook onto one of the peaks of the key. All depends on the situation. Side tangent, I've always found that wafer locks have a lot more tolerance built into them, obviously, than say a pen tumbler or high security or small format interchangeable cores or whatnot. So you're going to have a lot more maneuverability in the wafer locks. So it's going to allow you to get away with some clever uses of this sawtooth extractor, and another one I'm going to show you in a bit. But you might not have that in a higher tolerance, or I'm sorry, a lower tolerance, higher quality cylinder. For example, this is a Schlage Everest key and lever. If this were to break off, I can almost guarantee you I'm not going to be able to get much of this from the top. Maybe you'd have to go through the side, maybe underneath if I could, depending on how it broke. But these are okay. I've used them a few times. Like I said, when the space or the situation allows for it, they're pretty adequate. But as far as ubiquity, I think you're gonna find that the tweezers and the spiral extractor are gonna be your best friends. But these come in a set of something that you buy, or it's already assembled, or you find them for cheap. Why not? The fourth type, and these are cool, hook extractors. And there are a lot of different types and designs, but the goal was very much the same. Can't talk. Very similar to the sawtooth extractor, they use hooks. This almost looks like a whaling harpoon if you think about it, but if you can see this hook, it's going to try to grab onto various portions of the key as well. Here's this peak, I'm grabbing there, grab it to the side, and in fact they do make side extractors where it's kind of like this, but the point is perpendicular to the rest of the extractor itself, so it allows you to press in on it on the side of the key and hook and pull out. This is kind of the classic hook pick, well no, it's not a pick, hook extractor design. You see a lot of manufacturers use these. This is from HPC's stainless steel set that they sell picks and extractors, and this is what I first started with. But you can see these are a little bit smaller, and they also come in various different shapes and profiles, so you can kind of really play with it. And again, going back, hook up some vice grips to it, hook inside, grab onto that key, pull it out. Simple as that. So those are four types of key extractors that I'm aware of. If you have any in mind that I didn't cover, please comment so that others may learn and benefit from, myself included. Two final points. There may come a time where pulling the key is not an option. Either it's really in there, it's really jammed, you don't have enough room, whatever the case may be. We've all been there, I've been there. For some reason I can't do small format broken key extractions worth a hoot. So you're going to have to pull the cylinder out to get a better angle at it. Now if the door's locked, you're going to have to find a way to unlock it other than the cylinder itself. You may be limited. If not, specifically if the door is unlocked, well, go about the way to remove the lock cylinder as best possible. And then, you know, for example, if it's a key and lever, obviously we can take off the cap, remove the tailpiece, retaining pin, spring, all that out of the way, and then just very simply push it out through the front or the back. Same thing with, well, no, it wouldn't be the same thing with an interchangeable core because you'd have the housing blocking it. Disregard. You're going to be able to do that mortise cylinder, rim cylinder, key and lever cylinder. So if it's not coming out, and I usually try no more than 5 or 10 minutes, and if it's possible to pull the cylinder, well, that's about all I'm going to try before I start doing that. And you may have to get creative with it. For example, I know I just corrected myself on interchangeable core. There have been times where I've had to remove the housing itself and drill an access hole from the back to push it out. So certain times may call for certain measures, and you might have to get creative. The final point I want to make about is just because the key's out and you removed it doesn't necessarily mean the job's over. You want to find out what caused it to begin with. Is the cylinder or the lock operating as it should be? Was the person just heavy-handed? Hopefully they have another key that you can duplicate to give them a replacement. If not, you may have to duplicate or originate a key using the broken portion, which is fine, more money in your pocket. But you don't want to just remove the key and have it in there, because if the symptom is only cured or fixed and the problem's not cured, well, you're probably going to be back out there. And so just save some time and effort and do the right thing for your customer by really inspecting the problem and seeing if you're fixing the lock and restoring it to its nearest possible perfect conditions. So 16 minutes of talking about broken keys. I know I said it's basic, very simple. I'm just trying to cram about 11 years worth of experience in here and try to tell you what I've found and what works best for me. But everybody's got different perspectives, so if you're aware of something that I didn't cover, by all means share it, because we're all here to learn. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks.